Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the Rome Floyd Chamber Small Business Spotlight. This is Rome Business Radio. We are broadcasting from the Hardy Realty Studios on Broad Street in downtown Rome, and we work in cooperation with the Rome News Tribune. I'm Roger Manus with Rome Business Radio.
I'm Carly Parker with the Rome Floyd Chamber. Today on our podcast, we have Georg Hubenthal with the Foundry Growler Station, Kimberly King and Payton Berry with Sexual Assault Center of Northwest Georgia, Joe Costolnick with Harbor House Northwest Georgia Child Advocacy Center.
The toughest thing every week is to pronounce
the names, the last names.
How are we, everybody? How are we doing?
Good.
Thank you so much for being here. We'll just kind of go around the room and let everybody kind of give us a broad overview, if you don't mind, of your organization, and then we'll let the conversation flow where the conversation flows. But the idea is to let our listeners know about your organizations and create connections in the room and in the community. So, ladies, let's start with you, Kimberly King and Peyton Berry with the Sexual Assault Center. Thanks for being here. Just if you could give us a broad overview.
Oh, well, thank you so much. The Sexual Assault Center is a 501c3 nonprofit victim advocacy center. So we are committed to serving survivors and their families for however long they need us. We provide an array of services, not only from responding to an outcry for the need of services, but also on the preventative side. So we provide community-wide prevention education, as well as victim advocacy, 24/7 crisis intervention, and we man a 24/7 crisis line, as well as being able to provide forensic medical services and counseling services in the community.
Okay, so all-encompassing on a very, very tough issue. What is your title?
So I'm the executive director.
Yeah, you're the big shot.
Well, I wouldn't say big shot. We're a small organization that makes a big impact. Our services are vitally needed in the community. Not only for the purpose of helping with that investigation, but for supporting the people and the families that have been unfortunately impacted by victimization. And so we're here to be able to share a little bit about what we do, and excited. Thank you so much for having us.
All righty, thank you for being here. We'll circle back around, but let's chat with Joe here, Joe Costolnick. Harbor House Child Advocacy Center. Tell us about your organization, Joe.
Yes, sir. The Harbor House is a child advocacy center, one of 52 across the state of Georgia now. We were founded in 1994, and like the Sexual Assault Center, we are a nonprofit here in town. Our main purpose is to provide or to centralize the investigatory process for the county when child abuse allegations are made. So when there's an investigation into allegation of child abuse, sexual molestation, things like that, we're kind of the central focus of that. The police departments and child protective services contact us to schedule forensic interviews of these children. And we also provide victim advocacy, just like the Sexual Assault Center does, for as long as they need us to be with them. We also offer trauma-focused therapy services to these kids at no cost.
Okay. Do you guys cross paths a lot?
Every day.
We do. A lot of our services are completely intertwined, and that's the beauty of Rome and Floyd County, is that we have a plethora of victim services, not only from a child advocacy center, a sexual assault center, but also our local domestic violence center, a shelter, the hospitality house, and then even our victim witness assistance program in the community. We have a ton of amazing resources.
Okay. Continuing with our final guest, Georg Hubenthal with Foundry. Hi, Georg. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Hunky-dory, as we say down south. Tell us about the Foundry, for those who don't know, but everybody should know.
So I feel like my speech is going to be a little more commercial.
Lighten it up. You're good.
Right.
Yes, the connection here is we're all Chamber of Commerce members.
Well, I have also been a supporter of the Sexual Assault Center with a dance challenge with Lauren on Hillman a few years ago.
Yeah. That's a great event.
It is. It really was. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
It's amazing.
So we basically are a craft beer and pub restaurant, if you would, business on Fifth Avenue, kind of tried to bring Fifth Avenue back. A bunch of people have come since then. But basically, we just sell craft beer and wine on draft to on-premise and off-premise, and try to give you a nice, comfortable atmosphere to do it in.
Growler.
What
is that?
That's a old term used for a jug of beer that didn't seal well years ago, and would, I guess, due to carbonation, burp sort of, and it would make this low when the CO2 would escape.
Oh, so that's how I got.
So you're walking down the road from the brewery, and your jug is growling at you.
I didn't realize there was a story behind the name. I just knew it was a jug of beer.
Yeah, they were real popular before canning, and it was easy for people to get their beer from local breweries and take it to their house. It's the same principle.
So, craft beer, what does that mean?
It just means smaller breweries. So it's not. They're usually a little more specific in what they brew. There's not usually a pasteurization or anything like that. So it's you have like Budweiser, which is a really large brewery all over this country, and then a craft brew would be kind of localized. They may like, we get some craft beer from California and other places, but typically it's more local within like the 3 states here: Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. We get a little bit from Carolinas too. But
so, like, how many varieties would you have, or different types?
So we have 30 taps of beer.
Okay.
2 taps of soda, 8 taps of wine, 2 cider taps, and we have a seltzer tap now too.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your background?
My background is woodworking.
Okay. So how did you end up at the Foundry?
Well, I built it. We had an opportunity to do something fun in a town, and in Rome. We really liked Rome, so we decided to put down some major roots. And I started a woodworking business, and then felt I was spending a lot of time visiting other people's bars and spending money. I thought I could do this and make some money, and I wanted to do it differently than what was being done.
So tell us a little bit about the vibe when people go in.
It's usually, I think it's pretty chill. I think it's, the idea is that it's comfortable, family friendly, but yet it's a bar. But it's a little, like, it's not a country hick pub or bar. It's a little upper scale from that, and that sounds like I'm classing it, but it's. I mean, you could come in with your muddy shoes on and your torn shirt, and we'd serve you as no problem. But you're not typically going to see rough housing in there. It's a little safer environment. We try to keep people served without over serving. We're very conscientious of those things. So it's again, kids are welcome as well. So you go in and you get a beer for yourself and a soda for your child, and you enjoy yourself, and the kid enjoys themselves.
What if the kids start roughhousing?
Yeah, we got a big parking lot. They can go sit down.
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just kind of keep the conversation going. Peyton Berry with the Sexual Assault Center. What is your job title there?
I am the Victim Services Coordinator. I've been with the Sexual Assault Center for 6 years now, and I just was recently, I took on this role about a year ago. So I manage our advocacy program. So we're blessed enough to be able to have a very strong advocacy program, which kind of sets us apart from the other sexual assault centers, really across the country. A lot of people, when they are assaulted, they typically just go to a hospital and have a sane nurse perform an exam at the hospital. Okay. And that's the end. With our program, we are lucky enough to have someone who is trained in crisis intervention and victim-centered approaches go out and meet victims at the hospital or have them come to our center and provide them with their options. So a lot of people don't know when something happens, kind of what happens next. It's really hard and confusing. So we can kind of be there to support them and walk them through that process. These are your options with reporting. These are your options with evidence collection. And then even almost more importantly, after the exam, kind of follow up with them and say, what can we do to support you? Do you need help talking with your investigator? Do you need resources for therapy? Things like that. So really try to provide a holistic kind of experience.
And for many, I think that victimization can be so isolating.
Say that. Start again, Kimberly.
I was just saying, so for so many survivors, their assault and their victimization and their trauma can be so isolating. They can go inwards. They don't know who to talk to. Even the people closest to them being, thinking about disclosing to them can bring up so many other conflicts and other reasons why they would, they feel like they may not be able to reach out. So for that reason too, advocates, the advocates on our team that provide that support, they're like that extra person in their life, that support person, that the person that our clients can call to say, hey, I'm really struggling with this today. I just really want to talk about these triggers. Could we maybe do some like grounding techniques? Or, I know we've talked about counseling a couple of times before, but hey, I think I really am ready to like maybe go and take that next step. Could you, help me with that referral process? So in our world, an advocate is, they kind of help to case manage and make sure that the client has everything they need. Everyone on our team, though, not just our advocates, everyone is incredibly vital and important. We have a group of almost 30 individuals on our team. Even though we are a small, our issue, the things that we do, it's quite quiet. A lot of times we're not necessarily out there because of our work is behind, closed doors, and it is more quiet. But we have a big team with big hearts and just wanting to be there for survivors. Well,
it's obviously a horrific thing that you're having to deal with.
That they're having to deal with.
Yeah. What are the numbers like of how many people do you work with? Is this worse than we wanted to? It should never happen at all, but is it worse than we think?
I would say yes. Yeah. I think that any, and even sitting here with our partners with the Harbor House, any disclosure or any, victimization of anyone in our community is a devastation. It's devastating to any of us, because it's someone that we all care about. We are a close-knit community, so it affects everyone in some way, right? We, on either end, but this past year we served 382 people, of which 127 were under the age of 18. And we have to really keep that in mind, that we are this is only considering sexual assault, right? I know Joe can speak a lot on, child abuse numbers in general, but just out of our community in the 5 counties that we serve, the most that we serve is from Floyd, Bartow, and Polk. But yeah, out of last year, 382, 127 were kids.
Wow. All right. Well, that brings us back to you, Joe. If you could, what kind of numbers are you dealing with?
It's similar to what she said. We serve 2 counties, Floyd and Polk, but we average about 200 forensic interviews per year, and usually over 300 therapy sessions of some sort. About 150 of those 200 come from Floyd County. So, child abuse numbers they're there. They're not always the type of case that you would think you see on the news or something like that, but they are definitely happening here. And we do like they do as well. We work to work on the prevention piece and help get into schools and do things like that. Try to stop it before it gets there.
Yeah. So if you could go into a little more depth about So you try to help with the investigation side.
That's correct.
Facility. So what's that process like?
Well, when I used to be a detective, if you didn't know that, I used to work for Rome CPD. So,
you know what? I didn't want to say it, but when you walked in the room, I thought, there's a cop.
I'm trying my best to lose that perception. But listen, so I did this for like 17 years here in Rome, and that was majority of my career was doing investigative work, to include sexual assaults of adults and sexual assaults of children, as well as, a plethora of other things. But when you do that work, I tell this to everybody I talk to, you cannot, as a detective, you cannot do the work without these service organizations. It is legally impossible for me to try to collect evidence from a victim of a sexual assault crime. So you have to have these organizations. They're not government organizations. They're nonprofits. So we've got to stand behind them as a community. We've got to stand behind these organizations. So when I had the opportunity to come over to Harbor House, 5+ years ago, it was kind of a blessing. I support it. So when we have a case, when there's an outburst or an outcry of abuse, a child says it to somebody, usually somebody trusting in their life, and then that starts the reporting process. Usually DFAC's aiming the police, get the police report or the incident report, and they have to investigate it. And to do that, the detective has to get information from that child. And in order to do that, by our legal protocol, they contact the Harbor House, the Child Advocacy Center, and set up what they call a forensic interview. And that child will come to our center, which is a comforting atmosphere downtown. It's a drive by, you'd think it's somebody's house.
All right. So it's not a police station or something intimidating, no. Right?
And that's extremely important. One, every time this child has to relive that trauma, they're being re-traumatized every time they have to tell that tale. And when you have school staff, principals, parents, uncles, aunts, teachers, police, DVACs, attorneys, doctors asking this kid the same thing over and over and over. So we changed it. We bring them to our center where we conduct a recorded forensic interview by a trained professional who leads or conducts an interview that is in a non-leading, non-biased manner that allows the child to disclose their tale in a recorded atmosphere. That becomes a piece of evidence. The important thing to know about a forensic interview is that it is legally defensible, that particular interview. So as a police officer, if I sat down and tried to get information from a child, that may not be legally admissible, or it could be easily overturned in court. So this is a whole creation of the process. So I used to utilize that facility before I became the director there, and also the Sexual Assault Center. So I'm heavily involved with both. I'm a board member at Sexual Assault Center, and my wife's a SANE nurse too. So
yeah, it's funny. Being a small town, sometimes when people walk in, we want to create connections in the podcast room, and that's why we invite a variety of organizations each time. But sometimes they already know each other. Y'all walked in and said, "Hey, I didn't know you were going to be here."
Yeah,
that's really kind of funny.
I was impressed. I was the first one in the door, which is very rare. And I was looking out the window and I saw them pull up.
I just
kind of chuckled.
What ages are we talking about, Joe?
3 to 17. By our Floyd County protocol, child abuse protocol, we serve children aged 3 to 17. We will attempt to interview children under that age, depending on, just every case is different. So it just depends on the circumstances and whether or not we think we could do, make a difference.
Are you a Rome native?
Since 1995. I'm from East Cobb area. I was born in New York and grew up in East Cobb, and I went to Berry College. So
that's where that last name comes from, then,
that's right? Yeah. I'm actually, I've got Pennsylvania roots. My parents are from Pennsylvania. My grandparents and aunts and uncles. So
poor guy.
Where you from? Where were you from?
Well, I was born in Philadelphia.
Okay.
So East Side, but
Scranton, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Waymart.
It's just awful.
Small
place.
towns.
That's where what's the TV show The Office takes place in Scranton?
I was about to say Scranton. I know this.
Dunder Mifflin.
Dunder Mifflin. Yes.
My mother does not like the weather in Pennsylvania. I get to hear about that frequently.
It's gray.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's what
gray.
she said. It either rains, it snows, it's cold.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, like, what brought you south?
A decision to move to a warmer environment. Yeah. So, I mean, it's such a depressed place up there. I mean, it's gray in sky. It's gray in attitude. It's just really depressed. The happiest time you go is when you're stuffing your face with some amazing, Italian or German food.
Cheesesteaks.
I was about to say
Exactly.
cheesesteaks, right?
Or close your eyes and go to bed. I mean, it's
Sounds like you should be my
Sounds like
uncle.
a beautiful. It sounds like it's always sunny
Wow.
in Philadelphia. Wow.
it's like, Philadelphia is actually a little bit better. Western Pennsylvania, where I was most of the time,
It's like Pittsburgh and steel
it's
mills.
just- the cloudy skies didn't go when the steel left. It's just cloudy up there all the time. But there's that. And then I grew up actually in South America, so I was used to warm weather and sun. And moving back to Pennsylvania didn't fulfill that need for those.
Well, you have an interesting background. So what brought you to Rome?
I actually took a job here. It was 15 years ago. I just realized I was in a dead end spot in Western Pennsylvania. It's just not a whole lot going on. Hard to raise a family. And I just there's no. It didn't matter how much you worked. You were still going to be in the same place you were the last year. So it got to a point where I was like, I need to move away and go somewhere where there's more vibrancy.
And here we are. Well, one of the things I like chatting about, because ultimately this is a business podcast, is talk about you said, you kind of had this idea of you were spending money in other bars.
Yeah.
So there's risk reward to, launching something. So talk about the mindset and the headaches.
Well, headaches are the uncontrolled factors that you just can't foresee or even figure out how they even came about. It's just stuff that just occurs. You have employee issues always. I don't know what business or probably even an organization that you're in, you're going to come up with people. The more people you hire, the more involved you are in more people's lives, like deeply. And there's that factor. Then there's just changes going on within the city, and that's actually hitting us pretty hard right now with all the construction on West 3rd and 5th.
Yeah.
I mean, it's those things where it's like, oh, these are growing pains, but in the meantime, we're groaning. And so it's and then there's just in a smaller town, you get a little bit. At times, you'll get a little bit of gossip going around that is not necessarily true, and people. There's somebody said to me recently, there's always two sides of the story, but one side gets told. And that happens a lot. And so and you try to stay higher ground and just try to be decent. But there's just a lot of just unforeseen things that just happen within the realm of the city, within the realm of government in general. Man, COVID was an insane situation. And I don't think anybody could have foreseen any of that. That just came out of the blue.
So how did you navigate it?
Carefully.
Yeah.
Is that when you added food to your menu?
No, we had food before that. Actually, we were doing really well with that. We added food a year after we started. Everybody wanted something to have with their beer, and I thought responsibly, it's really better than letting people leave on an empty stomach and full of beer. Well, empty food wise and full of beer. So we added food a year after we opened. So, and then it grew from there.
Well, what's on the menu?
We have all kinds of flatbread sandwiches, appetizers, things of that nature. We're actually doing every Saturday from 10 to 1, we're doing a brunch where we actually have draft seltzers that are mimosa seltzers. And we have a separate menu totally for that. So pancakes and chicken and flatbread with egg and cheese. They have this one thing. It's called the chef has this thing called Jamie. He has a situation plate, and it's basically potatoes with roast beef or corned beef and a slab of smoked gouda or gouda and then an egg on top, and it is amazing. Ooh. It's something you would find in Europe and like Germany or something. It's so amazing. And then there's some vegetarian options and some vegan options as well.
And what are your hours?
We are open Monday through Thursday from 11 to 10, and then Friday and Saturday from 11 to midnight.
Okay.
Although Saturday now from 10 to midnight.
And closed on Sunday.
Closed on Sunday.
All right, well, let's kind of go around the room one last time here. And ladies, one of the things I want to make sure we ask you about is that you're obviously a nonprofit. You get a little bit of state funding, but heavily rely on donations and corporate support.
Yes.
So, and you got fundraisers throughout the year as well. So just tell us about what do you need from our listeners?
So we have a couple of, interaction, engagement. Everyone can do their part, whether that's small or big. I think that that's one thing that we always try to stress, whether it's, doing something and, being a believer, being someone that is there to support in someone's own personal life, or whether it's having a conversation with someone else at lunch about, hey, I heard this awesome podcast about the Sexual Assault Center and, like what they do in the community, and telling them about, wow, did you know that they do prevention education? Having conversation that can help. Donating money, even being a volunteer to help us fundraise, or even if you can't donate, monetarily, there's other ways to give to us. And so, in any way, we always try to encourage people to, find a way to make an impact. But yes, to kind of go back to like how we are funded. We are funded through some state funds as well as some federal grants. But like you said, we heavily rely on our community. We're so grateful for how our community came. They really showed up when COVID happened. I know that Roger, you and I worked previously together a lot with our Rome Celebrity Dance Challenge event. That was a huge fundraising event for the Sexual Assault Center, which we are bringing back in 2023. Very excited to announce that and share that. But, when COVID happened, we had to, cancel the event, being responsible, making sure that we, obviously couldn't host this huge community event during a pandemic, right? So we launched our first annual fund campaign ever. Right? Wondering how is our community going to respond? Are they going to even, still want to donate to something that's not an event, something that's not fun? But they showed up. They did. And we surpassed what we needed to make that year, and every year since. And so, we are excited though to bring, our CDC back in 2023. But yeah, that's a little bit about our funding.
And what's, let's just kind of, as we wrap up here, any final thoughts or contact information? How can people connect with you? Website, social media, phone number, what have you?
Yes, absolutely. So all of our information can be found through our website or through social media platforms. So we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. It's at SAC and WGA. Just type in Sexual Assault Center of Northwest Georgia or Sexual Assault Center Rome, Georgia. It's going to come up in your Google search. But we are available 24/7. It's not just some calling center that you're going to talk to. It is a real live advocate, someone that works with us, who then you can meet one of our amazing SANEs, one of our nurses. And so anyway, just being able to contact us through that or through our social media platforms.
Okay, thank you. Joe, final thoughts from you at Harbor House and maybe how people can support or help or connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like Kimberly said, we're funded very similarly. Federal grants, some state dollars through our accreditation agencies, but community donations. And that's what we need. That's what we need. We need donations. About 60% of our operating costs come from the opportunity to get grants. They're not always available, and they do get cut. So we need the community bonus fundraisers. We got a 5K on Saturday. I know it's 2 days away, but race day registration. Come on out. Help us out.
Race day registration.
If you're not a runner, come out and walk. We got a 2-mile walk. Bring your dog, but that helps. I mean, it really does. little things like that. Just supporting some of the things that we do throughout the year. Check us out on Facebook, Harbor House, Northwest Georgia Child Advocacy Center. You'll find it. We got a website as well, nwga-cac.org, and give us a call. We'll tell you all about us, 706-235-KIDS, kids.
Oh, that's clever. Okay, Georg, location for the Foundry and contact information.
So we had a little bit of hiccup with our website and with our Facebook page recently.
Big tech.
Long story.
I
blame
Zuckerberg.
It was Zuckerberg. He came personally. No, so we have a new Facebook page, and it's just The Foundry, and you'll see the little logo on it, and then our website's getting adjusted, and it'll soon be posted through that. But we're on 255 North 5th Avenue, so 5th Avenue on the corner of West 3rd and 5th. And we actually do enjoy doing events which actually support things like these two organizations in our community. And we're actually going to be doing an event on October 18th with a guy who's written a book called Cash on Cash, and he went into some archives with Johnny Cash, some interviews and all that stuff, and he wrote a book, and he's going to play music, and we're going to try to do a pretty big production with this, and we're actually looking to probably do a donation of part of that fund, and so I may be talking to one of these two afterwards, or maybe both of them, because they're just great organizations, and I know I've dealt with a sexual assault center before, and they're fantastic people that really do an amazing job, and I can't even imagine the things they have to put themselves through just to deal with this stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the community connection, not only in this room for the podcast, but in real life when you guys go out and the businesses and organizations support each other, which brings me to Carly for her final thoughts, because that's the Chamber's wheelhouse, making sure y'all all work together.
It's not idealistic, though. But final thoughts is just always go onto our Chamber calendar where these guys can put all their events going on in their communities, kind of going on in their lives, kind of keeps all of us connected. We have events as well coming up next week and at the end of the month. If you'll just kind of look out for that, and then you can always catch us at roamga.com. And then obviously my email is kparker@roamga.com as well. And you can always reach out for us if you want to be a guest on the podcast as well.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, everybody. It's been a great show. Appreciate you participating. You've been listening to the Rome Floyd Chamber Small Business Spotlight. We broadcast from the Hardy Realty Studios on Broad Street, and we work in cooperation with the Rome News Tribune. Thank you so much for listening.